Hi, my name is Jason Elsgood. I'm a born and bred Aboriginal Territorian living here on beautiful Larrakia country in Darwin in the Northern Territory. My company Cross Cultural Consultants has been working with the Northern Territory Seafood Council in the development of a cultural education and representation project aimed at fostering greater cross-cultural understanding within the fishing industry here in the Northern Territory. This is part 5 of a 6-part podcast series, and today we will talk about why it is so important that we understand the impacts of native title, Aboriginal Land Rights Act, sacred sites, and why we need to understand the significance of sacred sites for people in Aboriginal communities. Australia has a history of seeing Aboriginal people as not being in opposition to the colonisation of Australia and to the changes which have taken place in this country over the last 200 years since Europeans arrived. This perception is not true. The demand for land rights and recognition of people's ties to country, which is both ceremonial and an economic imperative, goes back to the late 1800s and early 1900s and is a long, ongoing battle. It was only with the Whitlam government in the 1970s that Aboriginal people found a voice for land rights. This was driven by government recognition of the need to address that was a clearly long festering sore. It was also in response to the Wave Hill walk-off and a response to the Yirrkala Bark petition. The slow build-up of awareness of Aboriginal land rights unleashed a series of events which are strongly supported by the High Court and are also seen around the world as being a necessary part of Australia's reconciliation process with its First Peoples. ALRA, Native Title and the Blue Mud Bay decision are all based on strong historical precedent that Aboriginal people did have an economic life before colonisation, and this life was tied to country and the resources which they gained from the land. The resulting legislation gives differing levels of land rights to Aboriginal people, with ALRA rights being the highest form of land rights available, granting Aboriginal landowners the right to exclude others from accessing their land. Every culture has places which it deems to be sacred. In the case of Anglo-Australian culture, this could be a church, a temple, or even a sports stadium for some. For Aboriginal people, the land on which they live is a spiritual landscape. It shows a story of how the world was created by ancestral and spirit beings. Most of these beings remain in the landscape today, and people have a relationship to the spot which they still reside. These are sacred sites and are incredibly important to Aboriginal people. They want them protected from interference by anyone, and these wishes must be respected. That's it for today's podcast. I would like to thank you all for listening. This has been part 5 in a 6-part podcast series for the Northern Territory Seafood Council's Cultural Education and Representation Project. To learn more, visit www.ntsc.com.au or check out the Northern Territory Seafood Council's Facebook page. This project has been delivered by Cross Cultural Consultants and the Northern Territory Seafood Council with funding from the Australian Government.